Hello everyone and welcome to Develonomics, where we, you guessed it, discuss everything related to development economics. Today we're going to be discussing the case of brain drain in developing countries and why this tragic case may not be as tragic as we think. Brain drain, which we'll discuss the details of later, is often framed as an irreversible loss. Countries like Nigeria, where over 20,000 doctors have migrated to the UK, US and Canada in recent years, provide stark examples of what many see as a crisis. The common perception is that this exodus cripples essential services, particularly in healthcare and education, worsening the already fragile economies of developing nations. But is this the whole story? Well, emerging research and real-world case studies suggest that brain drain is not always a simple loss. In some cases, it creates indirect benefits, such as remittances, knowledge transfer, and an increase in human capital through educational investments. To understand this complex reality, we must examine the interplay between migration, economic development, and global labour markets. So let's get into it, shall we? What exactly is brain drain? Brain drain refers to the emigration of highly skilled professionals from their home countries to more developed nations in search for better opportunities. Traditionally, this phenomenon has been viewed through the lens of economic loss, depleting a country's talent pool and undermining its development potential. However, recent studies challenge this perspective by highlighting instances where brain drain leads to brain gain. From an economic standpoint, brain drain can be analysed using human capital theory, which suggests that investment in education and skills enhances productivity and economic growth. If a country's education system adapts to migration trends by training more professionals, it may actually mitigate the negative effects of brain drain and even experience net benefits. The case of the Philippines is a prime example of this effect in action. Now, the Philippines has long been a top source of migrant healthcare professionals, in particular nurses. The United States is a primary destination, offering salaries up to 13 times higher than those in the Philippines. This wage differential, a classic example of labor market dynamics, drives migration as workers seek higher wages and better working conditions. A critical turning point occurred in the year 2000 when the US expanded visa availability for foreign nurses. The response in the Philippines was dramatic. Nursing school enrollment skyrocketed by 129% in provinces historically linked to nurse migration, and graduations increased by 247%. This surge was driven by the expectations of better opportunities abroad. However, something unexpected happened. For every nurse who migrated to the US, 9 additional nurses were licensed in the Philippines. While many of these graduates did eventually leave, a significant number stayed working in the domestic healthcare system or finding employment in other industries such as business process outsourcing. This phenomenon challenges the conventional brain drain narrative. Instead of permanently losing talent, the Philippines effectively expanded its human capital pool, and this aligns with economic theories suggesting that when migration opportunities exist, people invest more in education, leading to a net increase in skilled professionals, what some scholars call brain circulation rather than brain drain. And a key factor in the Philippines' ability to turn brain drain into brain gain was its capacity to expand nursing education. Between the years 2000 and 2006, the number of nursing schools grew by 10% annually, largely driven by private institutions responding to market demand. This rapid scaling of education helped meet both domestic and international need for nurses. However, there were challenges. With more students enrolling in nursing programs, licensure exam rates dropped from 58% to 38%. Many graduates were less prepared for the rigorous standards of the nursing profession. Despite this, the sheer number of those who did pass meant that the supply of skilled nurses still increased. This illustrates an important economic principle. Increasing supply can lower average quality, but total output can still rise, a trade-off seen in many industries. But this leads to the question, why isn't this happening everywhere? The Philippines' experience isn't universal. Many developing countries struggle to replicate these results due to systemic barriers. Market failures such as weak educational infrastructure and underfunded healthcare systems prevent similar scaling. For instance, in sub-Saharan Africa, limited investment in higher education and weak private sector participation makes it difficult to train enough new professionals to offset migration losses. So without sufficient incentives for students to pursue professional education or for institutions to expand training, skilled migration exacerbates shortages rather than spurring human capital growth. Economic disparities also play a role. In smaller economies or those with weaker institutions, losing even a small number of skilled professionals can have a disproportionately negative impact. For example, Jamaica has faced chronic healthcare shortages due to the emigration of nurses and doctors. Without mechanisms to replenish the workforce, brain drain is, in such cases, truly a net loss. And it can also be a double-edged sword, because one of the most significant indirect benefits of migration is remittances, money sent home by migrants. In 2022, global remittances reached $647 billion, surpassing foreign direct investment and official development assistance in many developing countries. In the Philippines, remittances account for nearly 10% of GDP. Families use this income to improve their living standards, invest in education, and fund small businesses, creating a positive multiplier effect in this economy. However, reliance on remittances can also discourage necessary reforms in origin countries, such as governments may be becoming complacent, knowing that external income sustains local economies. India offers another perspective. This country's tech and medical diaspora has contributed significantly to global innovation while also sending billions in remittances back home. The Indian government has leveraged its expatriate community through initiatives like the Global Indian Network, which fosters knowledge exchange and investment. In contrast, smaller nations like Nepal struggle to translate migration into sustainable growth. While remittances improve household income, the lack of domestic job opportunities for returning migrants leads to frustration and underemployment. This underscores the importance of circular migration policies, which encourage skilled workers to return and contribute to national development. So what can be done? In order to maximize the benefits of migration while also mitigating its downsides, we can introduce several policy interventions. First of all, we need to strengthen education systems. Governments must invest in scalable education systems that can adapt to global labour market demands. Public-private partnerships, scholarships, and huge curriculum updates are crucial. Next, it's really important to enhance retention strategies. All this investment in education won't matter if they're all leaving. Competitive salaries, better working conditions, and career growth opportunities can help retain skilled professionals. Addressing systemic inefficiencies in public services is also vital. We also need to promote circular migration. Policies that encourage migrants to return with new skills and resources can foster innovation. Temporary visa programs that facilitate return migration can be really effective. Another policy intervention that could be potentially useful is to forge international partnerships. Destination countries can collaborate with origin nations to invest in training programs that benefit both. Global skill partnerships could train workers locally while ensuring employment opportunities abroad. And finally, we need to leverage remittances effectively. Governments should implement policies that channel remittances into development projects such as infrastructure, education, and healthcare. In conclusion, brain drain is not a simple loss. It is a complex economic phenomenon with both costs and benefits. The case of the Philippines illustrates how migration can drive educational investments and human capital growth when supported by the right policies. However, for other countries to replicate this success, systemic challenges must be addressed through targeted reforms in education, labour markets, and international cooperation. We need to rethink the narrative and implement forward-looking policies. We can transform brain drain into an opportunity for shared global prosperity. Thank you very much.